Hello. So today we're going to be talking about my experience working at 7-Eleven. So I worked for 7-Eleven in California from 2011 and 2017 kind of, I feel like. The reason why I started working at 7-Eleven was because it was really close by. It was like 4 minutes away from my house, walking distance. Um, It was one of the experiences that I would not do again, not at 7-Eleven. My management, my two managers there, um, they were a couple and they had a really good management going on between them. Um, Even though at the very beginning of my experience at working at 7-Eleven, I felt like an outsider. It didn't feel quite comfortable. As you all may know, English is my second language, so I did my best. For the very first time, I had a lot of experience when it comes to racism, and also a lot of I learned. It was a kind of experience our life experience when that it kind of like helped me out to be a better person, speak clearly or clearer. I had a lot of people going on in and out. I worked there. I never achieved any kind of like moving up in the company because they didn't. It was family owned. They didn't have another level. It was just like the lady, she would work there from Monday through Saturday, and then she would have the Sunday off. The guy, she was Caucasian, and he is from the Middle Eastern, and he would work every single day. He would work from sometimes 11, sometimes 10 a.m. till like 9 p.m. or 11 p.m. He was very committed. That's one of the things that I have learned, that you need consistency and you need to make sure that you follow every single step, every single you know pretty much stick to your job, stick to your work, and make sure that if you want to be a successful person, you have to work every single day. I felt like they rarely had a vacation time, so to me that was kind of very disappointing. I didn't feel like um, they wouldn't have quality time. Pretty much their whole lives, it was 7-Eleven. At the very beginning, I felt for the very first couple of years, not only days or weeks or months, I felt like the very first months from my three first years or four, I want to say, my manager, like the male manager, he would have a hard time for me to work there, not only because we would have a language barrier. It was really hard for me at the very beginning to understand his accent, even though I also have an accent, so it was very hard for him to understand my accent. um, when it comes to my female, to we're gonna do an M for her, and we're gonna do an S for him, just to keep their privacy. I feel like she was more accepting, she was more willing to work, she was more willing to train. Um, if you wanted to achieve any kind of level at 7-Eleven, you would have like a certain or a specialty duty, like filling out the coolers, filling out the candy section, or filling out the, I don't know, the cookies and Lay's and Fritos and or the coffee section, and then you would have like a raise for 25 cents more, 50 cents more. I started working there for like $7 or $8, I think. Um, it wasn't the best experience because I was always my manager would have me work almost 6 days a week, and I was never full time. My first 5 years there, I was never full time, and that's one of the reasons why I left the job, because I felt like he was always playing with my time. He would put me to work from Monday from 10 p.m. to 1 p.m. and then come back at 6 p.m. and then come to work at 9 p.m. And I wouldn't have a computer. It was really hard for me to know because I had just recently moved there from Indiana. It was hard for me to understand where internet was really it wasn't really a big experience. I had a hard time finding where it was a public library, how to get to a computer and work from there and find another job. I really had a hard time finding another job that would allow me to um, at least get a better payment. I never felt comfortable when it comes to payments. When I as I worked there, I always felt like I was really short on money. I never had enough money to, pay a whole room for myself. So I had to always share with somebody. And in the very first years, I did have to share with my dad. So I just I just didn't feel like it was the right choice for me. Um, After the fifth year, I think I did quit, and then I left the job, and I engaged to grocery outlet, which it's just a whole new experience. I'm just not even gonna talk about it. I left that job, and then I went to become a. I worked for to become a CNA, and I was a caregiver in the meantime, and it was a really loving experience. And I say really loving because I fell in love with the work that you do, with the people that you work with the patients and the assistance that you give them. You kind of like engage in kind of like a friendship kind of relationship with all the patients and were they aging American. So it was just honestly a very loving experience. Um, after that, uh, After that position, I became a cashier at Chevron. And at the same time that I worked for Chevron, I something inside of me was telling me you need to get a car, you need to start working, you need to start traveling. Life is too short. And I kind of had like all these things going on in my mind and myself around me, and I felt like I was not enjoying myself. I felt like 7-Eleven made me think that always work and I never had a chance to enjoy myself. So when I started working for Chevron, I managed to have both jobs for like a whole year, I think, first. And in less than 3 months, I achieved to become a manager at Chevron. And honestly, it was one of those jobs that I enjoyed, but it was a lot of responsibility as well. I never had a day off. I would have to go to work on Sundays to at least an hour or two to finish out the reports. My supervisor at the time, he wasn't really good. It just a whole different world. So that's one of the reasons why I did had the opportunity to pay for my very first car, which I still have. My car's name is Vicky, and Duhamel named it. So I had the same time. I had the opportunity to work at 7-Eleven at the same time, and I actually went back and I reapplied, and they didn't really need the application, so they said you are hired. And at that time, I started having issues with my back with my sciatica, so my manager became more friendly, more aware, and I didn't have a kind of a like the strong accent as in when I started working for them. So he was more happy. He was more like aware that I was more aware of everything. He knew that I had an opportunity going on. He knew that I had another job, the Chevron, and that I had became a manager, and that everything was going great. So he fell in love with the work that I did because I was more. I was faster. I would learn easier. I would help him train new employees. So it was honestly it was kind of like a whole different world because back in the day, before I had quit the first time, um, I had really really bad coworkers with that would have a hard time on me. I remember one in specific. He was also Latino. He was like the second or third generation, and I believe he would always talk about his personal life. And he was like a bully, a natural bully. And I say a bully because he would yell at me, he would scream at me. My voice was always like really soft, and he had a really strong voice. He came from a police background. His brother, I believe, it was a police officer. He wanted to become a police officer. His dad was a police officer. Something like that going on. He was along more. He would get along more with the rest of the male coworkers, and I would always get more along with the female coworkers. I just never felt very comfortable working with them. Um, they would have an issue going on. They were able to tell that my sexual preferences. They were able to tell my accent. They would make fun of me. I would complain to my manager. He would not do anything to stop it. He would say the next day, "Oh, I talked to them," but they would still do the same thing, and to me, it was just very annoying, and it was not a very happy experience to me. So to me, that kind of like felt uncomfortable the whole time. One of the reasons why I left the job is because of that same situation going on over and over again every single day, which is annoying. I felt like I was back in high school or something like that. Even when I think about it, it makes me feel sick. It makes me feel sad that I did not stand up for myself at that time. Right now, I just feel like I'm in a different place and I can stand up for myself. But back in the day, I was like 22 years old, and I would not be able to stand up. I was not very fluent when it comes to English. I was always very like submissive when it comes to the jokes that they would do about gays, about Hispanic or Latinos, whatever you want to call it. It was just unbelievable. It was amazing how much hate they would have, and to me, it just wouldn't feel comfortable. And to me, it was a whole different experience. So when I came back, I was very happy that none of them would work for them. Actually, my manager, he was very attached to them. My male manager, and his wife, she would say, like, "Oh my gosh, we had to let them go because we found out they were stealing items, they were stealing money." It was just, oh my gosh, like I was happy that they had let them go, but I was not happy. I was very sad for my manager, because I knew he was very attached to them. He was very happy with them, and they would, at some point, they would have, pretty much kicked his ass off, in a sense that he wouldn't. They were not loyal. They were not honest. They were not. I don't know. I felt like my manager. There's a phrase in Spanish that they said that, you're kind of like a dog. You kind of beat the hand of whoever feeds you, and I felt like that kind of applied to my manager, because he was a friend rather than just a manager to them, and he would feed them. He would give them food. He would pay for stuff for them, and they were unloyal. They were dishonest. I just don't feel comfortable when I remember that. I feel like it was just a bad experience for anybody at the job. But when I came back, it was a whole different world. There were none of them. The guys working there, they were very friendly. They were very nice to anybody, pretty much. You always have a kind of like a lazy coworker. You would have that still, but I would always be able and ready, and even though I was working two jobs, I would never complain that I was tired. I was always very happy and helpful to anybody who would come in. We would have a lot of random people who would yell at you, people who would be homeless, people who would be stealing, customers who would be complaining all the time. It was a whole different world. I was very happy that I would never show any kind of disrespect to anybody that I would work with. To me, that's kind of like the experience that I had at 7-Eleven. I would never go back because, first of all, it's not what I'm looking for in life. Second, I just respect them with all my heart. But right now, where I'm at, I'm more in a comfortable and happy place, or happier place that I have ever been to before. And I feel like for some reason things happen, and I just feel like that's not the same lifestyle that I want to get, or the lifestyle that I want to be in. Um, um, Honestly, if you have ever heard of anybody working at 7-Eleven, tell me how you like it. I did enjoy the second time that I actually joined in. The reason why I left the second time, it was because my sciatica, I was never able to handle it. And actually, I had stopped because I had an incident going on where it just actually made me stop to walk. I would not be able to walk at all, and I was always in pain. They had to, inject me with a couple. I had to go to the hospital, so they would inject this medicine that it would allow me to walk in a way, but I would now limp. So it was just an uncomfortable place for me. So I was very sad that I actually left the job the second time. I was saddened by the fact that the people on the team that they had working, or they had, yeah, pretty much working with for them and with them, it was more like a pleasant kind of like environment. If you have heard of anybody, or if you have enjoyed or being at 7-Eleven, or you are a current employer, I would encourage you to always look forward for more options. Never keep yourself safe, or never keep yourself just in a square, if it makes any sense to you. Always look for more options, more possibilities, more chances. Always try to grow in any kind of way or sense. Make sure you have that option, and never let yourself settle down for something that it's not, you don't feel like it's the right choice or the right option or the right place for you. Always work very hard for what you want. And with that said, I hope you guys like this video. I'll talk to you guys soon. Tell me about your experience, if you ever had any kind of this situation going on, even if it was in 7-Eleven. I'll be more than happy to hear from you guys. With that said, I'm always thankful to them because they opened up their doors to me, and I'm always grateful and thankful. I'm very appreciative of the job that they had offered me, even though it was just cashier. To me, it was more like a learning experience, and I can never say thank to anybody who has opened their doors and fed me with the position that they allowed me to work with. So I hope you guys are doing great so far. I'll talk to you soon, and take care.